Coming up on No Pulp, championship weekend came and went, and it most certainly wasn't chalk.
Oh yeah, we talk the upsets, but also we talk the favorites that cruise.
Plus, we brought in the big guns for the juicer tonight. Jacob, you better be ready for war.
Well, I'm ready for war and to break down the entire bowl slate. We're talking New Year's Six and all the mid-major competitions as well.
All that and much, much more. Strap in. No Pulp starts right now.
Golden Spikes.
Sonny DeShera from Auburn.
The freshmen never win. The freshmen never win championships.
Jeremy, you are an absolute square.
Cleveland the catch. Good if it does. Oh, he hit it.
Wow, he's getting serious.
Frankly, I'm pretty embarrassed.
Bang!
All day life.
Hey, and welcome to No Pulp. John Dales, Jacob Morris. Jacob, it's an exciting time of the year. Championship weekend has come and gone, and we had a lot of good football.
Whole lot of good football. A couple days closer to college baseball season, but focusing on college football right now. The CFP's finally here. Whole lot of good games.
We're talking Golden Spikes soon, but we'll put that on the table for later. Let's start this one out by talking Big 12 title game. Number 10, Kansas State takes down number 3, TCU. 31-28 in overtime. Jacob, TCU, obviously, you go for it on that 4th down and goal in OT, and you don't end up getting it. Do you think Kansas State is a better team than TCU?
Well, it's a fair question because Kansas State 6 weeks before this game was up 28-10 and TCU came all the way back and won that one. But John, I want to tell you about a saying the kids have, all right? I'm going to clean it up a bit. It's a little bit too profane for the CitrusTV airwaves. I'm going to say it as TCU messed around and found out. Why? Because the Horned Frogs all season long have played with fire. 5 times now after the Kansas State game, TCU is trailed at the half. Finally, it comes back and bites them. You can't expect to continue to come back time and time again. And K-State beat them. There's no way around it.
Yeah. You know, when you're talking about TCU as a whole this season, too, I don't think this was them playing poorly. I think this was them playing up to the level that they play at. Look, you mentioned the Kansas State game. They snuck past Oklahoma State. Kansas, who ended up not being a good team, that was in the air all the way to the end. They needed their kicker to sprint onto the field to get by Baylor, too. I think that's just who TCU is. They won close in the Big 12.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Good for them. You know, first 12-0 team in the Big 12 since Texas back in 06. But at the end of the day, this is a team, when it comes down to it, that has just won too many close games, and that's great. A 2012 Notre Dame team did that once. But when you get to the big games, the college football playoff and such, it might come back and bite you. It did against Kansas State, but at least in the Final Four, the Horned Frogs made it. But from the Big 12 to the Pac-12, a shocker in Las Vegas, or maybe not so much in hindsight. Utah obliterates playoff hopeful USC 47-24. The Utes outscored the Trojans 44-10 from the mid-second quarter on. USC drops to 11-2. Both of those losses to Utah complete an utter domination for the second time this season, or at least in this game for the Utes.
Yeah, Utah's a good football team.
Really good.
Look, they are.
Cam Rising.
Yeah, Cam Rising. I got it in my notes right here. You might want to read it. Cam Rising is a dog.
A dog? You got that dog in him?
He most certainly does have that dog in him. Take the x-ray out. I don't know what way you got to look at it. Cam Rising's a beast. 300-plus yards, 3 touchdowns in this game. He showed out. And that USC defense is atrocious. So that's not the level of a defense that should be in the playoffs. So good that they're out of this. And that's what made it so surprising. That game before, that Notre Dame game, suddenly everybody flipped on USC because the defense played well. And Caleb Williams has been good all year. He was great against Notre Dame. Again, he was good in this game too. Stats ended up looking good. But, suddenly you play Utah again and things kind of fell apart.
I'm with you. The Notre Dame game, it turned out to be a bit of a mirage. Because coming into this season, right, the book on USC was whole lot of toys, whole lot of fantastic skill position players. How are the Trojans going to be in the trenches? Well, I'll tell you, 7 sacks for the Utes answers that question, right? And Caleb Williams, like you mentioned, hampered by that hamstring after the first quarter, still put on a heck of a performance. I think, right? He's still the leader in the doghouse for the Heisman. He has to be.
I was going to say, I think he won the Heisman against Notre Dame. I really do. And again, when you look at the numbers, when the voters look at the numbers in this game, he didn't play poorly
almost
against
400
Utah,
yards,
too.
yeah.
So, I'm sure he'd rather be playing in the playoff, but he's probably going to end up getting a Heisman Trophy out of it. Well, that's what ended up happening. After those games wrapped up, Sunday morning, we got the college football playoff selection. Georgia, the number 1 spot, no surprise there. That team up north, Michigan, takes the 2 spot. TCU, even with the loss, sits in at 3, and then Ohio State sneaks in at 4. Gut reactions to that?
I would say the committee got it right, which is overall a positive because you can't always say that about the good old CFP committee, right? TCU, there was a lot of questions, a little bit of perhaps panic by all of the people that have been on the Horned Frog train the whole year. Are they going to get dropped out for an Alabama team? Maybe Tennessee when they go down in overtime after going 12-0 in the regular season. They stay at 3. I think that's where they should be. Ohio State sneaks in at 4. A little bit tough, John, that they didn't have to play that extra game when they go down, or you think the Buckeyes deserve it?
I think both is true. It's probably tough that they don't have to play the game. I think they certainly deserve it, too.
Very unbiased of you.
I think they deserve to get into the playoff. I think you'd agree to that as well. I was surprised about TCU, or maybe not that surprised, but I think TCU losing a game to Kansas State probably should drop. But again, the committee, why I'm not surprised, the committee stayed consistent with what they did last year. Last year, they didn't want Georgia and Bama to play each other again the very next week after the SEC title game. Same thing here. You don't want to put 2 and 3 Ohio State against each other.
They said rematches didn't factor into it, but they always do here, right? And you have to know in the back of their head, they're salivating at Ohio State and Michigan, perhaps in the national championship game. But I think the TCU decision was right, like you said, because you go to the conference championship game, you play that extra game. I think you reward them, and you don't move Ohio State up there. But the one thing I'll say quickly to you here, and you're going to laugh at me, you're going to think I'm just trying to get a reaction out of you, would this not be the year that you would finally like to see the 12-team playoff? Because you can't tell me outside of Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, all these teams couldn't compete. It would be nice to see them get a shot, even USC with Caleb Williams. This is the type of situation that would prove to be fun in that 12-team playoff. I know you're going to disagree.
Look, I disagree. Go back to 2. Go back to Georgia and Michigan. Okay, fine. You lose. You don't deserve to get in. You lose by 22 at the end of the year. You don't deserve to get in. Georgia and Michigan's all you need. You put in 12 teams. None of them are going to end. 10 of them aren't going to be able to compete, or however many it is.
I still think you give Alabama a shot, you give Tennessee a shot. I know it ruins the regular season, but it's going to be a lot more fun.
It does ruin the regular season. Thank you for admitting that.
You're welcome.
We're up against a break. When we come back, juicer time.
Oh, yeah.
Jacob takes on Calvin Cristoforo. You're not going to want to miss it. Stick with us.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who once took care of you.
Here we go. We're going to go out there in the rain. We're going to get wet. All right, here we go. Okay, quick. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Hey, and welcome back into No Pulp. John Dills, Jacob Morris. We're now joined by Calvin Cristoforo. Calvin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, young man.
Well, look, we hyped this up, and for good reason. The juicer, a heavyweight battle here between Calvin and Jacob. You guys know the rules. You've played this game plenty of times, but I'll give it out just for fun for our viewers. I toss out a question, you guys give me the answer, and I'm the final judge. I determine who gets the points. That sound good?
That sounds great, and I dressed for the occasion. I just want to let you know that I had 3 Thanksgiving dinners this afternoon to get to, so I am stuffed full of food and college football knowledge, so good luck to you.
That's nice. Not a great tie combo with the shirt, and I wouldn't wear khakis on a professional segment.
Not a great look, a great look.
We'll get back to the attire later if we have time.
You're welcome. Take notes.
Let's start talking college football, all right? Which conference is going to have the best winning percentage in these bowl games?
Well, I'll tell you right off the bat. First of all, Calvin, thanks for coming out. I wish you nothing but the best, and have fun with the loss. I'm going to tell you, it's just different in the SEC, folks. In the SEC, let me talk and then we'll get to you. The SEC comes in 11 bowl matchups for the SEC, favored in 7 of those 11 matchups. But what I want to direct your attention, Calvin, to is the games where the SEC isn't favored in that, quite frankly, the conference has a great opportunity for upsets in. You're talking about Spencer Rattler and company playing Notre Dame, and its quarterback just transferred out, as much as I love the Irish. Tennessee playing a Clemson team that's on to a new era with a QB, and Missouri going after an Arkansas W against a stumbling Wake Forest team. So you've got 7 favorites already, plus the future national champion, not to spoil anything, in Georgia, plus multiple teams with an upset opportunity. Give me the SEC. It's just different.
Thank you for putting all those words over everyone's head. I want to take you to the textbook. Have you ever heard of trickle-down economics?
No, explain it.
I'm going to give you a lesson in trickle-down economics. USC loses. They're not in the playoffs.
Okay, they're gone.
Trickle, 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 trickle. The Pac-12 is going to win the most bowl games or have the best winning percentage, and here is why. With USC losing, they now drop down. They're in the college football playoff. Utah to the Rose Bowl. USC is playing Tulane. Tulane is
Without
not a Power
Caleb
5
Williams.
team. You can say that, okay?
I can say that.
You go down the USC depth chart, pick me where Tulane started, which is probably 4 or 5. Then you go lower than that. You got Utah now playing in the Rose Bowl, which means Washington drops down. Oregon State is playing Florida. You speak about quarterbacks. Who's playing QB for Florida?
Hey,
last year the Pac-12 won 0-5.
I've gotten the alarm blaring off of my ear. That means you guys got to stop talking. Look, that's a good Texas team that Washington's playing, by the way. And 0-5 last year in bowl games, Pac-12. That means I'm giving this one to the SEC.
Last year TCU was in the playoffs. Yeah,
1-0, Jacob Morris. Let's move on. Calvin, you start us this time. Which New Year's Six bowl has the best chance for an upset?
People sleep all day long. Georgia rolled through everybody. They're the best team in the country.
You're right.
They're about to hit a brick wall, baby, and that is Ohio State, who's been slept on. Everyone's like, oh, Ohio State lost at 21 points.
Brick wall in the trenches against the Wolverines. You're right.
Here's what they're going to do. They've been slept on. Party like it's 2014. I know the guy with the rolled-up jersey isn't walking through that door, but C.J. Stroud is coming up, fired up. He is ready to go. Everyone thinks Georgia's got a cakewalk with this Ohio State team. They are unfortunate. They did not get TCU in this first round. Ohio State fired up, and they're going to go in there. They're going to beat those dogs. Kirby Smart's not going to know what hit him. It's going to be an Ohio State Big Ten revolution.
All right, Calvin, you like the Buckeyes. J-Mo, who you like?
We'll get to that a little bit later. We'll just say Georgia's a better version of Michigan, and we know what happened when Michigan played Ohio State. For me, I'm going, we already touched on it. Let's talk USC in Tulane. You've got a Trojan team that comes in after losing out on the playoff without their Heisman quarterback, and so now you turn to, tell me something about redshirt freshman Miller Moss.
Yeah, look down at your paper.
Give me something on him. Give me something on Miller Moss.
I don't even tell you
anything. He's thrown 27 passes this season. Caleb Williams isn't walking through that door. You're talking about a Tulane team that comes in motivated with an opportunity. Oh, stars matter now?
How many stars is Miller Moss?
Tulane.
He would probably would have been one of Tulane's biggest recruits.
Again,
more than 27
let the
passes.
mediators speak. Let the mediators speak. Look, I love the Buckeyes. I feel nervous about the Georgia Bulldogs, though. I certainly do. I will say, though, Tulane's not nearly as talented a football team as USC. I don't care if Caleb Williams isn't playing. Look, you talk all about Georgia's talent compared to everybody else. How about Tulane's talent compared to the Pac-12? Calvin gets the point on this one. We're tied up on a piece.
Come back to this.
Who will be our next question? Who's going to be the best player in the college football playoff? Jacob, we'll go back to you.
Well, I'm a genuine human being. I could have sucked up to John Dales and said something about an Ohio State Buckeye, but I wouldn't do that because, frankly, nobody would come on here unless they knew nothing about college football and do that. So I'm going to go Jalen Carter, defensive tackle for Georgia. And you say, who's Jalen Carter? Let me tell you, the best defensive tackle in the whole entire country. The best middle defender in the whole entire country. And why am I picking him before you start? Why am I picking him? Because he's going to be integral in how Georgia's going to win the national championship. First, getting pressure on C.J. Stroud, shutting down the rush game, and then in the trenches against Michigan, sorry, the Horned Frogs, it's going to be a battle in the trenches like it was a season ago. Give me Jalen Carter. He's going to be a top 5 pick next year. He's going to get it done against the Buckeyes.
All right, Carter's pick. Who do you got?
Well, everyone has researched all the best middle defenders in the country because that's a position people look at. What they do look at, they look at
middle of the
wide
defensive
receivers.
line.
They look at guys who are going to catch the football. And if Ohio State is going to pull off that big upset against Georgia, Georgia,
Which
they
they're
need
not.
to throw the football. And they got to throw it to Marvin Harrison Jr. This guy is an absolute machine. You see that one catch he made on the sideline from the 1 foot in? It was silly.
Jalen
When
Carter made that
CJ
catch
Stroud
with
is
2
going to
feet.
throw the football, he is going to look for number 18. And when number 18's running free, oh, you better watch out because it doesn't matter how many dogs are running after him. This guy is the big dog himself. The Ohio State Buckeyes are going to go with the air raid attack in game 1 in the playoff, in game 2 in the playoff. They are going to win the playoff because of the passing game and Marvin Harrison Jr.
All right, let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is going to be
it's still
a kind
coming
of
up
question.
here.
But
Don't
look,
spoil it.
Again, good arguments presented by both of you. Jacob, I feel as though you almost overcorrected too much. I think a genuine human being sees what Calvin sees there. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the most talented player.
Middle
in
defenders,
the
though,
college
is
football playoff.
Middle of the defensive
Calvin
line.
gets the pick. All right, Calvin gets the point. He's up. We go into our final round, though. 2 points. If Jacob wins this, he wins the whole round. Who wins the national championship? Calvin, I feel like you've hinted at it.
John, you're
Just
a man,
a bit.
You're a man of football integrity. What's the toughest thing to do in all sports?
Beating a team 2 times?
And Ohio State is going to get the opportunity to do that. I already said they're
They
going
played
to beat
Georgia
Georgia.
already? 'Cause they're
I
gonna
already
lose to
said they're
Georgia.
going to beat Georgia because they are going to come in as the underdog. Ohio State's winning the national championship. Everyone's sleeping on the Buckeyes. Oh, the SEC champs. They haven't won a game since whenever. Georgia is
Who
in
hasn't won a
for a
game
loss.
since
Haven't
then?
lost a game, I should say. Haven't lost a game.
Middle defender.
Georgia is in for a tough go against this Ohio State offense, and when they get by Georgia, and when it's only Michigan, they're going to have the bad taste in their mouths from that big game, and the hardest thing to do in sports is beat the same team twice. Same thing, same team, same dog twice. They're not going to do it. Georgia is going to lose to Ohio State, and then Michigan is going to lose to Ohio State.
Calvin, again, likes the Buckeyes to win the championship. Jacob?
So when you came into the season, right, as the season progressed, the one offense that was on par as, kind of college football continued to go on with the Ohio State Buckeyes was none other than the Tennessee Volunteers.
Yeah.
Georgia matched up with the Tennessee Volunteers and gave up 13 points. They're going to need a whole lot more than 13 points to beat the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia discards Ohio State and one receiver in Marvin Harrison because there's no Jackson Smith and Jigba walking through that door. Georgia then matches up against a Michigan team that it waltzed all over. I'm sorry, that gap's not closing. It's the boring pick, but it's the right pick. Georgia gets it done, stomps all over your Buckeyes because we know you're a huge Ohio State fan. No upsets. Georgia rolls 2 consecutive national championships for the mailman, Stetson Bennett.
All right, well, very impassionate, points being made on both sides. But I have to say, look, you don't win a national championship because of beating Tennessee by 13. That's an Ohio State team coming in, not a Tennessee team. And you've spent months on end telling me how good the wide receivers are of Ohio State, and suddenly you just said they only have one wide receiver. Jacob, pull up the receipts on that. They've got 4 more than one wide receiver. Calvin wins the juicer. That does it for the juicer. Another break coming up on No Pulp. Stick around. We're talking Bulls, our favorite, biggest blowout, best name, all that when we return.
The minus 450 hits, baby.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
You go and step out of the vehicle for me?
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
1 in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. That means it could be you, your favorite brother, your other brother, you, your football buddy, your football buddy, you, your plumber,
breathe right into your foot,
your plumber's masseuse,
yes,
you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. With early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back into No Pulp. I'm surprised you're still with us. John Dales just gave up all of his integrity, but I'm Jacob Morris, and we're talking bowl season. We've already covered the college football playoff. Now we're talking mid-major bowls. Everything else, we'll say. John, when you look at the slate, let's talk bad games first. What do you see as a blowout when you look down the whole slate?
First of all, my knee still hurts from that ricochet shot that I just took. A bowl that sticks out as a blowout to me is Florida State taking on Oklahoma. Look, this is a legit Florida State team. They got 9 wins. They're a top 25 team up to number 13. Nearly snuck in atop that, ACC ranking for who's going to the Orange Bowl, obviously. Oklahoma, multiple times this year, has lost by 30 plus. It's ridiculous. 9-3 versus 6-6. You already have circled as a blowout. Plus the fact that Oklahoma's gotten run by a lot of the good teams they've played.
I think that's a good pick. Almost had it myself. I'm going to go the Las Vegas Bowl. We're talking Oregon State is going to run all over the Florida Gators. Why? Well, what's been Florida's we'll say positive all season long? It's been Anthony Richardson. He's gone to the NFL. Backup quarterback for Florida arrested, off the team. So then you turn to your third-string quarterback who comes in, Montrell Johnson, who's thrown 1 pass all season long. This is a Beavs team that's won 6 of 7, won the Civil War for just the 3rd time in 15 seasons. That one's not going to be particularly close in Las Vegas.
I think there's going to be 2 blowouts. 2 9-3 teams taking on 6-6 squads. How about our next one? Which bowl game do you think has the highest stakes?
I'll give you the Orange Bowl, and folks, it's the truest form of the Orange Bowl because we've got 2 teams that wear orange. Clemson and Tennessee battling, and I see this game as the one that has the biggest stakes. Why? Well, you have a Clemson team that's fully now entering into a new era. Cade Klubnik comes in against North Carolina. DJ Uiagalelei transfers out 2 days later. Tennessee, now you have to see outside of Hendon Hooker, is this a team that can stay relevant towards the future? Getting an Orange Bowl victory would be a big positive towards that.
That'll be interesting to watch. My one, I got the Rose Bowl here. Look, this is a Utah team that gave Ohio State hell last year in the Rose Bowl, and they're going to do it again. They really care about being in the Rose Bowl because a lot of times the Utes haven't gotten there. Penn State on the other side, 2 losses all year, 1 to Ohio State, 1 to Michigan. They're each in the playoff. I think this is going to be a battle.
Should be a battle there. The Rose Bowl's always good, the granddaddy of them all. Let's go best bowl name, just in general. What's the one you look at? What's the most fun on the slate?
Duke's Mayo Bowl.
Not bad.
Makes me think you got a bowl of mayo right in front of you. And then on top of the fact that in that game, there's become the tradition from Duke's Mayo where the winning coach gets mayonnaise dumped on top of them like you're seeing right here. First of all, brutal flip of that tub right there. It ended up hitting Coach Beamer on the head. But that's a great name, great tradition of that bowl game.
I like that one. Should be interesting who gets the Mayo bath. I'm going the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Why? Well, everything just rings true about it. You play in at Boise State. The weather is always atrocious here on that blue field right there. It's fun. It's Idaho. What's not to like? Who goes in the middle of nowhere and plays a bowl game? I don't know.
Love the blue field. Love potatoes as well. All right, let's wrap it up. Which bowl has the best destination? A lot of options.
I'll tell you the Bahamas Bowl, which is coincidentally also the first bowl game of the year. This was a madhouse last year. Fans were getting in without tickets getting checked. You can just walk around the track that's around the stadium. There was archery going on inside the stadium. The Bahamas, as fun as it is, it's a coastal destination. And then when you add in just a madhouse, first bowl game, the best destination.
Good answer. I'll go with Hawaii, kind of on the other side of
tropical
island, tropical type of feel. The Hawaii Bowl has been a Christmas Eve institution ever since Jimmy Clausen went there and took down the Rainbow Warriors. Remember that. This year, MTSU and SDSU going there. I mean, any chance that you get as a college athlete to say, all right, well, our bowl game, some people are going to Fenway, some people are going where it's cold, some people are going to the Idaho Potato Bowl. We're going down to the beaches in Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean, you could play in Idaho, you could play in the outdoors, or you could go play in the Bahamas and, Hawaii. Not too bad. But that's going to wrap up Bowl Talk right now. Don't go anywhere. One final break here on No Pulp. We've got Plays of the Week and our final words coming right up.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream. That I would never become a superhero. But I learned how to fly. Just to come back in a new disguise. And be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely. It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Closing up shop on No Pulp. John Dales, Jacob Morris. You recovered from that juicer yet?
Nope, not at all.
Still a lot of hard feelings from a juicer that lasted well into the break. But we finish up our final block of the show here talking plays of the week. Jacob, I know you got a good one here.
Oh, I'll take it away. If you're not watching the FCS playoffs, folks, that's your mistake. We're going Incarnate Word versus Furman. Watch this touchdown throw. Falling down, Lindsey Scott Jr. somehow finds a way to make it happen. 5 touchdowns, almost 500 yards total for him. Incarnate Word goes to Sacramento State, an undefeated Sacramento State on Friday. FCS quarterfinals, John.
And I like that flip at the end there, too. That worked out pretty well. Well, my play of the week, I'm going to the Big Ten Championship game. There was a fake flea flicker in the Purdue-Michigan contest. Take a look at this play. This play call by Jeff Brom works to perfection. Devin Mockabee gashes the run defense of Michigan, hurdles a player at the end, and the linebacker on Michigan bit so hard on that he could have tackled him, but he was expecting it to go back to the quarterback. Not many highlights for the Boilers, unfortunately, in this one, but that's a good play. I'm adding that to the repertoire in NCAA 14.
Might as well also exposed Michigan in the trenches. The Wolverines could be in trouble in the playoffs.
They certainly could. Well, all right, it's time for everybody's favorite segment.
It's time for the No Pulp Game of the Week.
You know what that sounds like? It sounds like it's time for the No Pulp Game of the Week.
It is.
And for that, this week, we're talking 5-6 Army taking on 4-7 Navy. Jacob, the thing that sticks out to me in this one is obviously there's no bowl berth on the line, but who do you like?
I like Navy to get it done. The over-under, as always, around 33 because points don't get scored in this game. Quite frankly, a little bit of the luster taken out because Air Force, Mark Heastand's Air Force Falcons, already took care of business with the commander-in-chief, but give me Navy.
I'll take the other side. I think Jeff Monken has made this his rivalry. I like Army in this one.
All right.
All right, well, for my final word of the show, I'm going to Boulder, Colorado, where Deion Sanders recently got hired as the new head coach to coach the Buffaloes. I know a lot of people love to overreact about introductory pressers, coaches talking to the team. Heck, everybody fell in love with Marcus Freeman before he coached a game last year because of the video of him meeting everybody in the ND locker room. But this speech from Deion Sanders made me want to suit up and run through a brick wall. I want to play for a football coach who goes into a room and says, your fans, boosters, and parents have had to deal with the problem, and I'm going to fix it. He says, things are going to be different when I get here. Even told players, hey, go ahead and go into the transfer portal because I'm bringing more with me. He also stays at Jackson State to coach the bowl game, which no coach is ever doing leaving a job. I'm all in on Coach Prime.
Hey, listen, I don't think it's going to work quite as well as I think it is at everybody else, but for my final word, we're not talking college football, we're talking college basketball. We're going to a sport that has been completely taken over by parity. The top 5 in this sport, you're talking about teams that haven't even been featured in the beginning of the season. We're talking about Purdue, who wasn't ranked, Virginia, who was at number 18 in the country, UConn, who wasn't ranked as well. All of a sudden, you have teams coming in that are completely out of nowhere in the top 5 overall. Blue Bloods nowhere to be found. College football, take notes. College basketball is doing it right. It's been fantastic all season long, John. I cannot wait for March Madness, but the regular season is going to be pretty darn good as well, given how much parity is in the sport right now.
That's something that bodes well for us come March.
Yeah.
Upsets, we love them. Well, that does it for this edition of No Pulp. Alongside Jacob Morris, I'm John Dale saying thanks so much for joining us, and thanks so much to our producer crew for joining us this entire last year. It's been a great year, Jacob.
Fantastic. Working with them has been nothing but the finest of pleasures.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you down the road.